Hey, comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0. And fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to do countdown episode number 84. That's right, fans. This is a show where Mike Spider Slayer counts down his worst comic book all the way down to number one. So, guys, this week we have a total of 14 comics to talk about all together. And let's get started with number 14, shall we? All right, so number 14 is. Yeah, New Avengers issue number 27. Um, you know, I'm trying to get into this whole, time runs out and it leads into the Secret Wars thing, but I have such a hard time understanding Hickman's writing in this series that I just can't seem to grasp it. In this issue, you wind up seeing, our heroes here going back to this place called the Black Priests, and they have to stop them to stop all these, I guess, incursions from happening or whatnot. And it comes across that they were mistaken, and the person that they came across was Doctor Strange in here, and he's actually going to help them to actually stop what is going to happen in the future. We wind up seeing Thor return in this issue, and the reason why he's able to hold the hammer is because he's in a different realm or a different Earth, so he's able to hold it. But overall, this issue was just so confusing. I'm just trying to understand or wrap my head around it of why things are going on. And I just feel like there's no good jumping on point for readers that are wanting to get into New Avengers because there's so much that Hickman is writing that you're just like, what? So it's just very frustrating for me to try to get what's going on. The dialogue and the writing here, if you're paying attention to Secret Wars, I don't know if that has to do with anything in here, but the narration there has like that same dialogue or colors or whatever it is. So interesting there, but nevertheless, it was just hard to understand. The artwork is pretty good. I mean, I don't mind the artwork, but Jonathan Hickman makes it really hard for its readers to get into books if you haven't read them. I wish there was a point where you could really jump on and say, dude, I totally get what's understanding here, and you just don't get it. So after reading it, I'm going to give it, 2 out of 5. I just can't give it a really good rating because it shouldn't be so hard to understand. Or maybe it's just me being slow. All right, so going forward, we're going to go on to number 13. And number 13 is G.I. Zombie issue number 4. Now, the last issue I liked. I enjoyed it a lot. And I liked the Future's End issue too. But the problem with G.I. Zombie is the same thing here. If you didn't read issue 1, you're kind of like, well, who is Jared? How did he become this way? I find myself hard to get attached to any of the characters here. They're just name dropping people, and there's no real character development here, and that's where G.I. Zombie really lacks. I feel that the artwork is solid. I think it's a good book to look at. I think it's an interesting read on this version of like a zombie apocalypse type of book. However, again, I just can't get attached to any of the characters, and there's no character development. So without that, I can't really find myself, liking the book all that much. And this is the first issue where I read it, and I found out going, okay, well, what am I really reading here besides this random guy that's got these powers that can not be affected by this zombie apocalypse, or he is a zombie himself. So I just would like to know more about everything that's going on here. And I felt like without reading issue 1 or 2, I feel myself kind of lost here. So after reading G.I. Zombie issue number 4, I'm going to give this one a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Unfortunately, I don't know if I'll be reading it anymore just for that reason. Okay, so moving forward now, we're going to go on to number 12. And number 12 goes to Earth 2 World's End issue number 8. Now, the problem with DC right now is that titles are all over the place. we got World's End, you got Batman Eternal, you got Future's End, and World's End, the world is blowing up, and Future's End, you got the whole Brother's Eye taking over the world, and it's just there's just so much chaos going on. You got other titles starting over. You have some titles that are continuing. It feels like there's so much inconsistency in the DC universe right now. It's almost overwhelming. And hopefully with Convergence that's happening, which is another major event that's happening after all this stuff, hopefully DC settles down, because when New 52 launched, it was calm, it was collective. They didn't have a major event until 2 years after the release, and then they had Forever Evil, or first they had Pandora, and then they had Forever Evil, and that led nicely into each other. Now this year, just all kinds of shit's happening. Oh, you got different Earths, you got this and that, blah 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 blah, and it's like, oh my God, what's going on? So World's End is no exception to that. In this series, there's just so much going on. It's just, you have Alan Scott trying to stop Apocalypse from coming to the Earth. You got Huntress that's being taken over. You got the World Army that's interfering within this thing. You got the Furies that are destroying everything. You got Constantine being thrown in here, and he gets introduced to some new characters as well. And there's just so much, and it's just like they're telling too much story here. I just tell a story, maybe go 3 issues into one story, and then tell something else, or tell 2 separate stories. Why do we need so much in one book with these weekly books? It's so frustrating. You get this other story where they find Superman's clothes, and it's really his shield, and there's just a lot going on. And in the end, you find out that Hawk Girl is the one that's also possessed in what's going on. So there's just so much reading, and I read World's End and Future's End back to back, and it was like the same thing going on in the issue. So after reading this, there's some interesting plot lines, but there's just so much, and so I gotta give this one a 3 out of 5. All right. So we go on to number 11, and this is the same thing here. Reading this book, it's good now. 2 issues we've seen back to back point A and point B issues where it's focusing on one story, and that's really about it. And Future's End does a much better job as a series as a whole when it does this. However, same thing. Everything is chaos. Everyone's blowing up. Everyone's running around, and you get to find Lois, who comes face to face with herself in this particular issue, and she doesn't want to leave herself behind. My problem in this issue, though, too, was probably overall the artwork was not good in this issue. People are really disproportionate here. Heads were large, bodies were small. And I just, Amico here just didn't look right, and visually I didn't like the book all that much. But I thought the story was better because you get to see Green Arrow and his team trying to escape Cadmus Island and take it out and take out Brother's Eye. In the process, you wind up getting this crazy death with Deathstroke. He gets his head slapped off or pulled off, and you're just like, what? Deathstroke's dead? Like, how is that even possible? So that was pretty interesting here. But again, throughout the entire issue, it's just chaos, balls to the walls, them escaping, doing this crazy battle against each other. And you get to see Brother's Eye freaking out in here. And then in the end, you wind up seeing our heroes wind up escaping, and the island completely blows up. So it kind of feels like we're at the end of a particular story arc here now, where Cadmus Island is blown up, and now we're going to go into a different part of the story. I'm not sure where Green Arrow and his crew goes from here, but within the next issue, you kind of see glimpses of what's going to happen in the future. Pretty interesting to see Lois interact with herself here. And then the battle was just outrageous in this issue. And for me, it was average. I thought that there was much better story told with the whole Firestorm issue. This one was just like, let's destroy the place and run. So, again, more chaos from DC, more destruction, everything all over the place. I give it a 3 out of 5. Next, we're going to go on to number 10, and our top 10 goes to Catwoman issue number 36. Now, this might be a lot higher on other people's lists. They might like this more. And this countdown is really focusing on what Mike Spider Slayer is experiencing right now through certain comics and why I might drop them. Not because that they're good or bad or they just might not be my taste. Catwoman is one of them. I haven't read Catwoman at all since issue 1 and 2 when the series first came out. I read the last issue, issue number 35, and enjoyed it for what it was. And same with issue number 36. This is a much better series. This is a much different Selena Kyle, and she's more of a businesswoman. She's in charge of the all the families, and this plays off of the events off of Batman Eternal. So if you're not reading Batman Eternal in this series or Batman Eternal, you might find yourself a little bit lost here. And that's me. That's what I feel here. I feel a little bit lost. I'm not reading Batman Eternal anymore. And, I like Batman, but I'm not the hugest diehard Batman fan. So, the artwork is good. There's good art when it comes to grittiness and this streamlined type of art. And it's dark and, kind of fits what's going on in the series right now. But there's a lot of names and there's a lot of families. And I find myself going, how am I going to remember all of this stuff? There's so much going on in this issue when it comes to, getting to learn everybody. And I can't find myself, again, getting attached to this story or to the characters that are involved here because of all the name dropping that's going on in this issue. However, if you are a fan, again, if you're a fan of this, you're going to enjoy this book. And you might like this better than the last Catwoman series because, I feel that she's not this bimbo in a tight suit just, being an anti-hero type of person. So, again, guys, if you like it, pick it up. If not, I'll leave it up to you. For me, again, it's a 3.5 out of 5-star book, and I'm not even really into it. So, all right. So going forward, we're going to go on to 14, 13, 12, 11, 10. We're going on to number 9. And number 9, this book kind of fits in the same manner for me, in Arkham Manor, issue number 2. Trying out these books. I tried out issue 1, liked the concept, liked how Wayne Manor is no longer Wayne Manor, it's now Arkham Manor. And I like how Batman sees the place as, he goes into it and he sees and he remembers things the way he grew up, how certain areas of his house used to be, and now you see it as a hospital. But now he's forced to go undercover and solve this double homicide, which is now a triple homicide. And you get to see him go undercover in this issue. And, I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed it. The artwork is good in here. It's a different take. I think Jerry Duggan is doing an original type of story here when it comes to Arkham Asylum. But, again, I'm not the hugest Batman fan. It's not it's a decent story, but it's not totally capturing me either to where I'm going to say, where am I going to see this in 8 issues from now? Because after Batman solves this, or Bruce solves this actual crime, where does the story go from here? And is it worth continuing to pick up for me? Now, I read lots of books each week. I will pick up a minimum of 14 books to maybe 20 books or 19 books a week. And there's always new books that are coming out. And I'm not saying that this book is bad in any way. I think this is a solid book. I think it's probably about in Batman fans that are into really Batman, this might be a 4 or 4.5-star book for you. But for me, I just didn't find it all that capturing. I was bored by it a little bit. And it's more of this darker tone. And I like certain books, dark books, but I don't like every book that I read dark. And this has that kind of darkness feel to it. So after reading this one, I'm giving this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars myself. All right, so moving forward now, we're going to go on to think we're on 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. So we're going to go on to number 8. And number 8 was The Flash, issue number 36. The Flash here focuses on Barry Allen. He gets thrown into the future, which is some weird dinosaur place, but it's got robots that are searching for him. Brett Booth's artwork is pretty good in this book, but it's also done by another artist, which is not quite as good. And you can notice the difference in between these the two artists here. And then you get future Barry Allen, who fixed the rip in the time force or speed force, sorry, and he goes back to the present, and he's aged backwards now. Now he's young, and he interacts with Patty. He's trying to figure out everything that's happened in present day, and it's hard for him to adjust to present life. Now, the situation in this particular issue is that we have to get the original Barry Allen back into the present. And once we do, what's going to happen to the blue-suited Barry Allen? So I'm not sure. Same with Flash here. Right now, I'm on the fence about Flash because I'm not sure where Vendetti is going with this series. It's kind of frustrating. I just want regular Barry Allen to be in his present time and dealing with his situations. I don't want to see any more time travel backwards, forwards, or fix the stream or the speed force. Dude, just be on your particular Earth in your time dealing with your situations. I don't want to deal with any more stuff. We're getting so much of this in comics this year where it comes to different Earths, different timelines, and back and forth and things like that, and it's happening everywhere. It's just like it almost seems that this is the only way to tell a story right now is to jump around all over the place. It's happening in Spider-Verse, it's happening everywhere, and it's just, for me, it's a little frustrating. It just is, and I guess you guys can see my frustration with some of these books this week. So so this was number 9, and I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars too. All right, so going forward, we're going to go on to number 8. Excuse me, I am a little sick. And number 8 goes to Nova, and this has to do with the Access tie-in. We get to see everyone's out of character, which is going on in Access right now, and we get to see a Hulk called Yolk or whatever the hell he's called. And we get to see Nova persevering against at all costs with him being hurt, his helmet's being damaged, and him trying to find a way to overcome everything and defeat Ulick or whatever his name is at this point. And he throws him into space and whatnot. So I thought this was an interesting issue because, it really shows his character, which was interesting. There were some good moments in artwork in here. And but some of the things that did piss me off was that you get to see Carnage in here as wanting to be this super good guy like Sam Alexander, which I'm just like, I can't stand it. I know Access is flipping out everyone's personalities right now, but first of all, they draw him like he's some like good innocent guy, all happy-go-lucky, and that's just not the way you see Cletus Cassidy. And it's just so funny. And he's just like, I think I'll visit that Sam Alexander kid with the mess with the hero, with this mess with the heroes blows over. I can hear him talk like this innocent little cutesy guy, and it's just like, it's so funny. He's so out of character for me. But what you got to take out of it is the humor here with Spider-Man trying to get this Hulkbuster armor to stop this weird Hulk, and Sam Alexander with the great personality that he has to go at all costs and stop this Hulk. So I thought it was a fun issue. Not the best issue. Doesn't drive any stories at all, really, of what's going on with Sam Alexander right now. But it was an entertaining read. I'm going to give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. All right, at least no time travels or future Earths or backwards Earths or super dark gritty or anything like that. So, all right, so moving forward now, we're going to go on to, I think we're on 7 or 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're going on to number 6. All right, number 6 goes to Robin Hood, issue number 4. Good jumping on points for readers. Zenescope does this new thing now where they are putting this little symbol. So if you're interested in a comic, you're like, oh, Robin Hood, cool ass cover. I have no idea who she's about. Who's this chick behind her? Oh, look, I got this symbol here. It's a good jumping on point. So it means launch. So it means that you can catch on. This book is really good. It's writer Patrick Shan. Artwork this time is Tony Brasini. He's done the Van Helsing issues, if you're familiar with that. And we get to see some good characterizations with Robin Loxley. And you get to see her human side to herself in this issue, trying to protect this innocent poor cat that this woman abuses, and we get to see good character interactions between her and her roommate, and then we get to see Brittany Waters in here, which is otherwise known as Red Riding Hood, and she's coming up and she's teaming up with Robin. And these two have a really good history with each other, and the book does a really nice job at explaining their history. And it also explains the villain in this issue, which her name is actually Ivory. And it's these vampires and werewolves type of villains. And good dialogue between characters and whatnot. And then at the end, we get to see this Ivory chick somehow wind up pitting our heroes against each other into a ring. They're forced to fight each other, and it was really interesting. They wind up blacking out, and they wind up opening up, and they wind up fighting against each other here. So yeah, cool issue. You know, good story here. Just a plain out good read. There's no time travels, nothing of that stuff. Tells a story. I think Patrick Shan does a nice job at telling a current story and reintroducing that character without you having to backtrack completely in a series. So if you guys want to try something now, go ahead and try Robin Hood and jump on at this point. I feel that you don't really need to read the previous story arc to understand what's going on here. So obviously that's why it's a good jumping on point. So after reading this book, I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 5. All right, so number 5. Number 5 goes to Superior Foes of Spider-Man, issue number 17. This, folks, I truly feel is the end of this issue. It's wrapped up. It's done. Nick Spencer talks. He gives his whole note, dialogue, humorous letter at the end of it saying, thanks for all the team and blah, blah, blah. It's over, finally. But this issue was good. It wraps up everything that happens with Boomerang. And this whole series has really been about Boomerang. It's been about him in the long run. It shows how he got to this certain point that he is now playing as a ball player, and it was really interesting to see all that, all the situations that happened during this whole series while you were reading it. You find out who his girlfriend actually was in the issue, which was Felicia, which is Catwoman. I thought that was hysterical too. She was disguised at the whole time, and that's kind of what this issue always is. This series has always been about. Everything always backfires on everybody, and this is the whole series. And you get to see Boomerang tell his story in a bar. And by the time you get to the end of the story, you find out what happens to all the characters from the Sinister Six or Five, and you wind up seeing that Shocker becomes the new Don, and he has possession of the Silvermane head in the end, and it ends like a Sopranos moment. Everything goes black, and it's referenced there from the Sopranos, which I thought was really a fun way to end the series. And when you find out that the person that Boomerang is talking to in the bar, he says his name is Peter. So I thought that was awesome, and it's a fitting end to the series. The series has always been fun. It's been a good read and humorous. It gave depth to characters that were always one-dimensional. And so now when you see these characters maybe in a Spider-Man book, you know what their personality really is like on the inside. So after reading this book, 4 out of 5 for me. All right, so we're going on to number 4. So number 4 goes to Spider-Man 2099, issue number 6. Again, more time jumping, different Earths, things like that. That's the way comics are today. But this story itself was a really good story, I thought. Peter David does a great job at giving good character interactions between characters. This story was Spider-Man 2099, Lady Spider, May, and Six-Armed Spider-Man. And we get to see them actually go to his brother's place to hide out and hide from Damios as he is making his approach towards them. And, it was really good to see these other spiders interact with Miguel's brother, and we can see Miguel is overwhelmed by Lady Spider, how she in her beauty, and he also doesn't know how to handshake a six-armed Spider-Man, which I thought was great character moments. Unfortunately, you get to see a death in this issue where six-armed Spider-Man goes out swinging, but he winds up getting killed. Which I thought was interesting as well. And but by the time the end of the issue happens, they wind up containing our villain in the issue, and then they got to go back to the year 2014 again. I liked it. I liked the issue. I thought it was fun, good story. When you read it, you know, you're just like, okay, well, now they got to go back to 2014. What happens from here on out? Does the villain stay in this world? The artwork is a little not as detailed as I would like. It's the one issue I have with this series. It kind of bugs me, this artwork, a little bit, but the storytelling is amazing, and I love the character moments that Peter David has to offer for his characters here. That's where I think Amazing Spider-Man has always lacked, that in-depth character moments. So after reading this one, I give this one pretty close to a 4 out of 5 stars as well. All right, so moving on to top 3. Number 3, and that goes on to Deathstroke, issue number 2. This is a cool story. There's a lot of holes here that you're not sure what's going on with Deathstroke. How he really became young again. What's happening with all the villains in this issue. But I think that's what they're really trying to strive for, is kind of like a mystery in this thing, because Deathstroke has lost his memory for a week, and he's trying to regain what has happened to himself, how he maybe became this way, and whatnot. So we get to see all kinds of battle scenes happen in this issue. Tony S. Daniels' artwork was really well done. We get to see at the end of this issue that he comes across his son, Jericho, which I thought was really neat. Check out this artwork, man. It's just really good. And you get to see some other characters in here, like, was it Lady Shiva and Bronze Tiger, which you kind of don't know where they stand in the series right now. So like I said, this series has lots of questions, and I felt that they're doing this on purpose to kind of make it a mystery, because just like Deathstroke, he has no recollection of what has happened to him ever since he got beat up in that first issue. All of a sudden, he woke up, he's got both his eyes back, he's young again, and he's trying to solve this mystery, So it's a really good book, I feel, and I feel that it has true potential here, and here's where he comes across his son. So it'll be also interesting to see if he fights alongside his son or whatnot. So I like the book for what it was, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5. All right, so now we're on to the top 2 books of the week, and the number 2 book of this week for me was Scarlet Spider's issue number 1. I enjoyed this book. It was great to see these clones working together. They're all different versions of Peter in a way, and it was good to see them interact with each other. One of the problems I had with this issue, though, wasn't the artwork. I love the artwork in this book. I liked how they were a little bit more skinny, a little bit more gangly looking. Kind of fits what the artist is trying to do here. I mean, these are Spider-Men, so in his true fashion, he's drawing them more like a spider, over-exaggerative facial features and things like that. So I can appreciate what the artist is trying to do in the particular issue, artistically wise. I thought the panels were laid out good. I like the details. And the story-wise was interesting. You get to see them go to this uh, to this inheritor's world, and his name is Genix, and it's the cloning facility. Because in Spider-Verse, we found out that they're cloning the inheritors, and they gotta try to find a way to stop this from happening. Because they thought they killed Damios in the last one, but it wasn't the fact. They found out that he was a clone. So our spider heroes have to go and they have to stop this, and they find out that Genix is in charge of this whole thing. Um, Again, you got Jessica Drew doing all this narration, which I felt that wasn't necessary. I think they could have just told the story the way it was, and it would have been good. They come across an Iron Man in this particular Earth, and he's like completely. He works for Genix. If not, he's a clone himself. He's come up with all the architectural work, and Genix is one of the inheritors. And our heroes have to try to stop these bad guys here, and what's it called? They have to stop this cloning facility. And so what they do is they try to pull like a Star Wars move. They wind up pretending that Iron Man, Kane gets, or was it Ben Riley gets into the Iron Man armor, captures Kane and captures Jessica Drew, and they try to go stealth on them, and it kind of like backfires on them because Johnny Storm's at the end of the issue and he goes, "Hey, this is Peter Parker. I know who this is." So it was an entertaining issue. It took a little bit time to develop, and I think you're going to get a lot of action going into issue 2 and issue 3. But I thought it was a fun read. I love seeing Ben Riley back in the book. It was good character interactions in there. Jessica Drew seemed a little bit more grown up in this issue, and I thought it was fun, and I enjoyed it. It wasn't overwhelming at all, and that was a nice tie-in. So I enjoyed it, and I gave this one 4 out of 5 as well. So, number 1 book of the week. What got number 1 this week? Well, for the second time in a row that this series has come out, it is, oh man, this bends. Superior Iron Man, issue number 2. Really good book, guys. This has got Daredevil in it, and it has obviously Tony Stark in it as his jerk self. And this kind of plays off of Access, because if you read the Access issue, you got to see Tony Stark and Daredevil fight each other in this issue, in that issue, and you get to see Tony Stark throw him out the window, and he says, "Don't come back," and it kind of continues off of that now. Artwork is done really well in this issue. It's great. It's bright the way Iron Man should be drawn. He's like rock star material. Interesting stuff. And you get to see this battle continue between the two. Daredevil gets thrown in the ocean. He's not able to use his senses in here, and it was great to see him probably in one of his biggest weaknesses here, not being able to use these senses. And what happens throughout the issue is that Tony Stark is going to release Extremis 3.0 for like a 24-hour time period, and they got to be within so many feet of each other. And there is hundreds and thousands of people just in San Francisco waiting for this. And throughout the issue, you wind up seeing that there's this man here that is against it, and he blames Tony for his son's downfall, because his son is the one that wound up holding this girl to a gunpoint because he wants money to get Extremis. Extremis is so addictive because it makes everyone beautiful, and now this is that son's father. And basically what happens in the issue is that Tony Stark is the one that winds up bribing the father, saying, "I'll take his picture off the media, I'll help, we'll call this, square," and because he wants no negative publicity whatsoever, and everything has to be focused around Tony Stark. And we get to see that the father has no choice but to do it, because he's just pressured into doing it. And then what happens is we wind up seeing Daredevil winds up capturing Tony Stark, and then the whole battle erupts throughout the entire issue. You get to see Tony has this symbiotic armor, and he says it's living, and I can feel it. A part of me, and you can see that what happens is that Tony winds up giving Daredevil Extremis, and he can actually see for the first time in Lord knows how many years. So it was a very interesting issue, especially the ending here, because Daredevil can see. So is he going to be tempted to stick with Extremis, or is he going to go against Tony on this one? It will be hard to tell, because this is something that, you know, Matt Murdock hasn't had in so many years. And I love the character in Tony, because this is Tony being a jerk. If you like the way Tony was written back in the day, you're really gonna like this Tony Stark. This ain't your typical hero, guy being a nerd or whatever it is. This is just the inventor. This is Tony Stark, greedy, jerk, money hungry, everything about him about all about the girls, all that kinds of stuff. So it'll be really interesting to see where this goes. Now, you notice it's not an Access tie-in, because when you read the description, this event kind of feels like it feels like his personality, I don't know, can't be changed. I don't know. It's kind of weird how this doesn't tie into Access, even though it does. Because when you read the description in that first issue, it says, oh, yeah, some people were changed back, but others weren't. So I don't know if this behavior will stay throughout the series. But I think it is, because if it says Superior Iron Man, this is what this whole series is about. So I don't know. But nevertheless, no more rambling on. This was a great issue. Great character interactions here. Can't wait to see what happens with Daredevil. This is a good comic book. I really enjoyed this. So after reading this one, I'm giving this one a 4.5 out of 5 stars. Not perfect, but pretty damn close to it. So, guys, there is your countdown for the week. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Leave me your comments on what you thought of what your favorite comic of the week was, what your worst comic of the week was, and everything else in between. And please leave me comments below on everything that I talked about today. I don't take anything to heart, guys. I know it's everyone's opinion on when we talk about comics, and that's what makes this hobby so great and so fun. So fans, until the next comic book review, this is Mike Spider Slayer signing off. And everyone, thanks for watching. Take care.